Hey, peace world. Thanks for pressing play another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment video. My name is Wood. Check out the video I just did. I posted, uploaded 10 or 15 minutes ago. Just kind of me talking through Errol Spence Jr. slash Premier Boxing Champions and the fight that we all want with Crawford slash Top Rank and Bob Arum, and then kind of the launching point of that discussion being the reports of numbers from last week's welterweight unification defense for Errol Spence Jr. against Danny Garcia. So check that out. Let me know what you think. But sticking with Bob Arum, because I mentioned that Bob Arum is who Ring Magazine gave some Spence Garcia numbers from him, and it's interesting that you would talk about those numbers from the ops. You know, the PBC and Top Rank are rivals. It's interesting that you would allow him to set the discussion, because I think that's the first that that Ring has reported on those numbers, and it's odd that I know Arum has decades worth of contacts, but to allow Bob Arum to set the to start that discussion just seems questionable to me. But hey, that's them. But what I did want to talk about with Bob, I don't know if you saw this a couple of weeks ago, but Bob Arum was kind of defending his position, Top Rank's position, with the lingering trilogy fight between Deontay Wilder and current WBC heavyweight champion Tyson Fury, and why he felt like they were solid in their position, that the trilogy fight had expired and they didn't need to honor that. One interesting thing that he said in all that he was talking about was that, and this kind of ties into the Spence and Crawford fights, or any hopes of that fight. He said that ESPN Plus was responsible for 1/3 of the pay-per-view buys of Wilder Fury 2. I'm struggling with that number. And he basically was like, well, you got a Wilder and team, or the PBC would have to come see us for any pay-per-view because of our success with selling the fight through ESPN Plus. I don't know if I really agree with that, because Fox Sports is in way more homes, millions, tens of millions of homes above ESPN. And then ESPN Plus isn't really a killer with its boxing numbers anyway. So now for this one particular fight, while it was one of the top 2 or 3 fights that you could make, 1/3 of the buys went through ESPN Plus. That would blow me away. And keep it in mind, you that Fox Sports was doing a lot of the the promoting and the marketing. A lot of the commercials were running on Fox at the time. So I don't know, man. Bob goes out here, he has friends in high places and gets to lead the narrative. Nobody questions him on much of this stuff, because you want to get Bob on your program. You want to get him on your podcast. You want to get him on your radio show. He's on Sirius XM quite a bit with the Monday and Friday night program, as well as the daily program. So you take what he gives you and you let him speak his piece. But I find that hard to believe. I went to the theater to watch that fight, so I didn't purchase it from either source. Another thing that I wanted to move on to, that I also talked about in the earlier video on the realities of the roadblocks to Spence Crawford. I keep hearing and I keep seeing people run out Porter's name, Sean Porter, and I'm seeing more spots with Porter talking about his interest in that fight, so on and so forth. But my understanding, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but my understanding is that he's the mandatory for Crawford's WBO belt. My question with that becomes what you have the rights to in the split in the mandatory position, I believe, is 80-20. So now, I mean, Porter wants to fight. Obviously, it's a chance at a title for him. It's a legacy fight for him. He might be a guy on the cusp, trying to solidify his record as a boxing Hall of Famer. It might make sense to him. But I'm just looking at it like, if you go in there as a mandatory opponent, you don't have any real claim. You got to take what you get. So, but at this stage in his career, like I said, with him needing a win against the right guy, maybe it makes sense for him. But that's just an interesting detail to consider. Him going in there fighting for peanuts, basically all that he's accomplished, and you might have to look at doing what you got to do to make that fight happen. And then on the other side of that, Top Rank / Crawford, I mean, I know they have a relationship. They're friends. Porter keeps stating that they're friends, but if I'm Top Rank and Crawford, I don't really do too much to help you out on the purse. We saw that mandatory. I can't think of who that mandatory was last year. Maybe it was Jacobs. That wouldn't have been a mandatory. Or was it? But I think Jacobs argued for more money against Canelo. I could be wrong on that one. Anyway, just stick with. My next point is I find it very interesting that the Anthony Joshua, who fights Saturday against Kubrat Pulev, I find it somewhat interesting that he's actually come out and predicted a knockouts round 7 through 9. I think, we're going to continue to have the stigma is going to continue to be attached to Anthony Joshua about his toughness, about his chin. He's going to continue to be looked at as, a vulnerable fighter and a vulnerable champion in boxing's biggest division. So it's interesting. I see Gerald Washington, I believe, is in camp with him. There was a couple other heavyweights that I can't think of the name off the top of my head. But, for him to be confident enough, he's a guy who's kind of kept his cards close to his vest at times. But for him to come out and say, call a range of rounds in 7 through 9, it'll be interesting to see whether or not he lives up to that. We saw after the Joseph Parker fight, I kind of fell back in my chair when he said it was a bout of finesse boxing. And I'm like, bro, nobody care about no finesse boxing from heavyweights. But he's more, that's kind of how he approaches fights. He's kind of like more of a cerebral guy, has a certain game plan. And, we saw what he did in the rematch to reclaim his titles from Andy Ruiz Jr. And, he goes about his business the way that he does. But, and he doesn't really need to take too many risks against a Pulev necessarily, because it's not going to hurt his business one way or the other in terms of if he wins, they can move forward with trying to pursue the fight, the undisputed heavyweight fight with Tyson Fury. So all he really needs to do is get across the finish line and win 7 rounds or 6. He wins 6 rounds, he probably gets a decision. So he doesn't have to really go out here and impress anybody to accomplish his own personal goals of the next bag that's out there or the next 2 bags that could be out there. Of course, that Fury fight is all contingent upon what comes out of the mediation efforts from Deontay Wilder with trying to get his trilogy fight. So throw that out there. Another quick note before I move on to my last point is, and I just forgot it that damn quick. Damn. Oh, Fury. Fury's come out and said that he won't be attending the fight Saturday night, which Matchroom's Eddie Hearn, and he wanted him to be there because in hopes of being able to announce a non-announcement that they're looking at May for the potential undisputed fight if Anthony Joshua was to win. But we know, like I said, it's a lot of moving parts there that aren't yet addressed for that to even happen. So they would just be making a statement just to make it. Last point that I wanted to talk about, man, you got to feel bad about this thing for Showtime because, again, and this is when fans really don't really give a damn about, we just want what we want. But no one's losing any sleep or giving any real concern to Showtime Boxing. And they just lost their main event, their last main event of the year. This is the second hit that they've taken to that card because on December 19th, Nonito Donaire was originally supposed to face WBC bantamweight champion Nordine Oubaali. Oubaali, did he have visa issues or was it COVID? Whatever, he's out of the fight. He was already out of the fight. The WBC maybe tried to help Showtime out and made, or maybe he just had an injury. They made Oubaali the champion in recess so that this Showtime fight could be a world title fight, which sounds better when you're marketing your last event of the year. So then they had Donaire against Emmanuel Rodriguez. Both of those guys were victims to the monsters. Both of them were stopped by Naoya Inoue. And now Donaire has turned around and tested positive for COVID-19 and will not be fighting, December 19th. That was kind of a hell of a night anyway, because we know that now the big fight that night, which will be in North America down in San Antonio, is Canelo Alvarez against Callum Smith. So you already had the short end of the stick coming for anybody that didn't want to pay for DAZN. But now you have they don't even know if they're going to move forward with the Emmanuel Rodriguez fight with him staying in it and elevating another cat that was on that card already. That's really not a big win. You also had Jaron Ennis on that same card who was going to face Thomas Delorme, who is now facing South Africa's Chris Van Heerden. Maybe they elevate him to the main event. That would be the second time that he's been elevated to the main event. If you think back to the Claressa Shields fight that was scratched against Habazin, Ivana Habazin, which got scratched up in Flint. They moved Jaron Ennis up into the main event that night. But, Ennis versus Van Heerden isn't a horrible fight. Van Heerden is 28-2-1 with 12 knockouts. Not a big power guy. Pretty rough. A pretty durable guy. A respectable pro is somebody I've seen before. I actually went to a fight down in Louisville. I can never say Louisville right. Louisville, down maybe in 2018, August of 2018 or something. He was at this WBC International Invitational where there was like six. It was an 8-man welterweight title, welterweight tournament, and Heerden was one of them. Chia Santana was in that event against Felix Diaz. That was the main event. So I've seen Heerden. Like I said, he's a pro. He's a name. But this really kills. Like I said, Showtime Boxing set out to try to put forth a decent schedule. In the COVID, they had the 9 dates that they rolled out. The two pay-per-views were fairly successful with the Charlo brothers, and then the title fight with Tank Davis and Leo Santa Cruz. But their other fights, even if you think back, I think it was early September, their first fight when boxing resumed for Showtime, they lost that main event with Leo against he was supposed to fight Cool Boy Stephen Fulton. They lost that one. Then they came back and David Benavidez lost his WBC super middleweight title on the scale. So it's been a rough run for Showtime. The numbers have been horrible. They're probably looking at this thing like, why do we continue to mess with this? How does Steven Espinosa go in there and justify, whatever budget he would put together for 2021? And that's basically the gist of it. So who knows if they even keep that show? I would imagine they go on and roll on with the Jaron Ennis as him being a hot, a hot commodity at welterweight. One of the divisions that constantly has, the attention of the boxing world on it. They probably keep it, but that's a big hit. But that's how things have been unfolding. Hopefully, it looks like we get the weigh-in tomorrow for Joshua and Pulev. So it looks like they're in the final stretch, and there won't be any COVID-related hiccups, that alters that card, which already the undercard is pretty light on there anyway with Okoli, Bud Coley, and some other Euro cats that I'm not all that familiar with. But like I said, man, boxing has really tried. It's already a very fragile sport when you look at the viewership, when you look at the exclusive contracts keeping a lot of the talent apart. I think a lot of the people behind boxing, behind the scenes, have put in a valiant effort to deliver, a respectable schedule in light of, the pandemic and all of this stuff. It's very hard to have international fights or, fights with international fighters trying to come into the States or whatever. It's just a lot of different roadblocks out there for putting this stuff together. But I think all in all, the calendar has been pretty decent. And like I said, this Saturday we have one of the top 3 names in the sport with Anthony Joshua. The following week you have Canelo and Callum Smith. So I think the sport didn't do too bad, really. But like I said, it's not great for everybody. Saturday, I'm getting ready to get off of here. My lunch is ending. Saturday, we have, a so-so fight with Shakur Stevenson and Toka Khan Clary at junior lightweight. It is what it is. The card itself, though, which gets started on ESPN+, they just added Elvis Rodriguez against somebody named Larry Fryers. Elvis Rodriguez is cornered by Freddie Roach. He's had like 4 or 5 knockouts in 2020 alone. I've spoken. I'm a huge fan of super lightweight. So to see what he comes back in and does is great. Edgar Berlanga is facing Ulysses Sierra. He's on the ESPN portion of the card. I cannot remember anybody else on there, but the card itself is pretty interesting. And then we get to see what Verdejo and Nakatani is the co-main event. So it's pretty good action over there. At 5 o'clock, I think you can catch the main event with Joshua and Pulev. And then at 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus is when their undercard for Stevenson Khan Clary starts. And that's your weekend in terms of boxing. Let me get on off of here, man. Bite down boxing. Don't let them count you out. Like I said, I just had to come on here, talk about Bob Arum a little bit. Porter as a Mando to Crawford. AJ calling out a knockout. Little out of character for him in a way. And then Showtime losing Donaire in his main event on December 19th. That's that. Let me get on out of here, man. Peace.